Sometimes when one company releases a new product, it takes a few years for the next competitor in line to update or refresh their product. But in the minivan segment, it seems like everything happens all at once. We have the recently refreshed Pacifica and Voyager. We have the all-new Sienna, which has now gone all-hybrid. We have the recently refreshed Odyssey. And we have an all-new Sedona, only it's not being called a Sedona anymore. This is now the Kia Carnival. With the last generation of Kia's minivan, they decided to go in a different direction than some of the competition and make it look more SUV-like. You can see that continuing with the Carnival. It's really obvious when you take a look at the very square window line and the window treatment on the third row that's trying to make it look a little bit more perhaps Chevy Tahoe or Chevy Suburban. Up front, it definitely looks a lot more concept car than I was expecting. The headlamp modules especially are really interesting. We have a very distinctive accent light kink going on, and then if I pause the video here, you'll see that we have two separate light modules, presumably one for high beam and one for low beam, and they're definitely very 3D looking. I'm going to be interested to see how easy that is to clean. It looks like it could be a little bit difficult to get bugs out of all those areas because we really have that multi-element grille going on up front like we see in a lot of new vehicles. The new Kia Carnival is also wearing Kia's brand new logo. This is one of the first vehicles in North America to be wearing that new Kia logo. Now let's dive under the hood first. It's going to have a new, more powerful 3.5-liter V6 engine. It's going to be producing 290 horsepower. They're saying that's the best in class. Although admittedly the difference between this engine's power output and the V6 that we find in the Odyssey and in the Chrysler lineup is not enormous. They're saying it's going to be good for 3,500 pounds of towing capability. One of the reasons Kia upped the displacement on the engine is to improve the torque output. This now produces 262 pound-feet of torque. That's logically the reason we have that 3,500 pounds of towing capability. The transmission is still the 8-speed automatic transmission, the same one that we find in a wide variety of different Kia vehicles. And it is going to be front-wheel drive only, so in that respect very much like the Honda Odyssey, but different than we find in the Sienna, which is available with an all-wheel drive system. It is hybrid only, so they stick an electric motor in the back, or the Chrysler minivans, which have an available mechanical all-wheel drive system. So if you're looking for a mechanical all-wheel drive system in your 8-passenger minivan, then that's going to be found only in the Chrysler envelope. Since clearly safety is important in any family mobile, Kia is tossing a ton of features onto even the base model. We're going to get standard autonomous braking with forward collision warning, blind spot warning with rear cross-traffic detection, rear parking sensors, the lane keeping assistance system that we see in a wide variety of different Kia vehicles, auto high beams, and driver attention monitoring. There's also going to be available a 360-degree camera system, forward collision cyclist avoidance. That's going to be bundled with their adaptive cruise control system, also their aggressive lane centering system they call highway driving assist, the navigation-based smart cruise control system that will decrease your speed in curves. There's also going to be a backup pedestrian detection assistance system that will use the ultrasonic sensors and cameras to let you know if there are pedestrians or nearby obstacles as you're backing up, and an available 360-degree camera system. According to Kia, the Carnival is going to be available in LX, EX, SX, and SX Prestige trims. This is something that we've been seeing in the minivan segment as minivan shoppers seem to be skewing a little bit older than they used to be in the 1990s or 2000s. So on the inside of the Carnival, there's going to be an option for some really comfortable captain's chairs in the second row with integrated ottomans, basically the same sort of thing that we're seeing in the very top-end trims of the competition. Kia has their interpretation. There are a number of specifications that Kia has yet to release. However, they are saying this is going to have a best-in-class 168 cubic feet of passenger room and best-in-class 145 cubic feet of cargo room behind the first row. That would be in the LX, EX, and SX trims, mainly because of the way the seating changes if you get the very top-end version. They're saying that the slide flex seating in the 8-passenger version will allow multiple configurations, so you'll be able to slide the center seat forward in that configuration so that way passengers in the front will be a little bit closer to a child that's perhaps latched into that particular seat there. Now if you get the top-end SX Prestige trim, then the second row seats do not come out of the vehicle because they're replaced with captain's chairs that are heated and ventilated. So obviously there's going to be some extra cabling going on there. They decided to not make that user removable, so those do stay in the minivan. Now let's look at the footage that Kia has provided of the interior. Unlike some of the other Kias where we have a really big infotainment system, this model is going to be available with a large LCD instrument cluster as well. You can see that the steering wheel has the new Kia logo on it as well. This is one of their more recent steering wheel designs, so we have the controls for the radar adaptive cruise control over on the right side, infotainment controls over on the left side. The instrument cluster itself looks basically the same as any other Kia with an LCD instrument cluster, so no major changes in the software. It doesn't look like there's going to be any moving map display or anything like that going on. The center console is definitely shaped an awful lot like the Kia Sorento, definitely in keeping with the wannabe crossover vibe that they have going on here. You'll notice that the center console is definitely higher off the ground and bulkier than we find in any of the other minivan competition. That gives it, again, more of that crossover vibe. The infotainment and navigation software appears to be basically the same as the one that we find in the Kia K5, so the latest version of that software. It's probably not going to have wireless CarPlay with the larger screen. That's something that we haven't seen in the large screen format before. We don't have too many details about exactly which infotainment systems will be available in the Carnival just yet, but I expect the base version to come with a smaller LCD that probably will provide wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Going down the center console, you can definitely see that there are many more premium touches with this interior than we found in the previous generation Sedona. So the way those toggle controls for the heated and ventilated seats look, etc., they definitely have a nicer, more premium feel to them. The Carnival looks like it's continuing the trend of Kia's getting Bose audio systems rather than Harman Kardon audio systems. An interesting touch I noted is that you have USB power ports on the backs of the front seats, but also, if you look closely, there's some controls there so that you can scoot that front seat forward to give the second row passenger just a little bit more room. Looks like there's also going to be a power inverter in the back of the center console, something that we see in a wide variety of minivans, but doesn't look like it's going to have the same kind of power output that we find in some of the competition. This one is just 100 watts. There's a new rear seat entertainment system with smartphone mirroring and a YouTube app built in. I'd be interested to see what other apps they build into the system. It kind of looks like we might see a Netflix app at some point too. That would probably integrate with some other data services that they would provide. There are two moonroofs, one in the front and one in the rear. They can be opened independently of one another. Kia sent out a few details about the interior seating configuration, so you can see that in the 7-row version, the second row seats don't come out. You can just pack around them, scoot those seats all the way forward. But if you get the 8-passenger configuration, all seats come out or fold flat into the floor. So the third row folds flat into the floor, the second row seats are in 3 modules, and they come out individually. So if you buy the 8-passenger version of the Carnival and you don't routinely need the center seat in the second row, you can pull that out, store it somewhere, and then pop it back in when you need it. At this point in time, Kia has not said how much the Carnival will cost, but I expect the price tag to stick pretty close to the outgoing Sedona. Be sure and let me know what you think about the new Carnival down there in the comment section below. I'm not entirely convinced about the name, but I do love the way that the Carnival looks. The front end definitely has a concept car look that we don't see in too many vehicles out there. The way everything fits together, it doesn't look as boring, I guess, as samey as some of the other minivans in this segment. And it certainly does come across as a wannabe crossover with the way that rear end treatment is done, the way the rear end of the vehicle looks, but it has all the practicality of a minivan. And then when you're behind the wheel, it doesn't feel quite as minivan as some of the competition either. The way the dashboard is laid out, the way the controls are laid out, it definitely feels a little bit more like one of Kia's crossovers or sport utility vehicles. Let me know what you think about that down there in the comment section below. And of course, stay tuned because hopefully I'll be able to get information on pricing just as soon as I possibly can. I expect that it's going to stick pretty close to the current generation Sedona, so it's probably going to be an excellent value proposition compared to basically every other entry in the minivan segment. The one complaint I have is that the second row seats still don't fold flat into the floor. That is something that Chrysler was able to do with their minivans. If you aren't going to give us all-wheel drive, having those seats fold flat into the floor really makes the interior an awful lot more cargo practical. Be sure and let me know what you think about that in the comment section down below, and I'll see all of you later.